What's going on, guys? T2RX6 here, back for another third-party toy review. And today we're going to be taking a look at the TFC Toys F15 Eagle, otherwise known as Airraid. Now, before I go on too much, I really want to make a comment on how people are getting all bent out of shape that this says Airraid on it. And they're basically comparing it to your Masterpiece Thundercracker, who had a picture here of a Seeker holding Soundwave with a Decepticon logo, and it says Sonic Boom. They're saying, oh, it's the same thing, it might as well not be robots in disguise. I think that the spelling of Airraid done with letters and numbers, and not even flat out saying Airraid, it says A1R1ID. That's not even Airraid, it's just your eyes fill in it because you know his name is Airraid. I think that's great, and I love the fact that I can look at this guy and remember that he's Airraid of the crew, because frankly, most of the Superion bots, I know all their names, I just get them confused when it comes to their various names. Now, I also wanted to bring this up because there's another Transformer. This is not the first time we've seen, this. In fact, Hasbro's done it themselves with Lugnut. And I don't think anybody complained about that, so I'm not really sure why this gets so many people's feathers in a ruffle. Perhaps it's just something to complain about here. But yeah, so he is a F15 Eagle, as his name would imply. And if you're not aware of what that is the same jet that Starscream is. So there's a pretty striking resemblance between the two of them. And we'll look at that a little more later, but you can kind of see just how they measure up in size. He is way bigger than I was expecting him to be when I got him out of the box. And I probably shouldn't have, because Fireflight's pretty big. But yeah, I kind of was surprised once I transformed him the first time. Now, you'll notice he's actually making use of the foot of Superion and a little extra piece that plugs in between his knee pads here to actually make a flight stand. And it does have a little bit of articulation. You can get him up and you can get him facing down a little, and that's pretty much all you need. The foot does have a side to side here. Unfortunately, it's not weighted right that he could actually look like he's banking to the left or right, but I suppose you could always figure something out for that if you wanted to, and you can just hear how stiff those foot ratchets are. You also have, of course, if I can get it open here, because I have no fingernails. Let's see, what can we employ to help us here? Well, let's do this one first, because it's at least a little bit easier. You've got the opening nose cone revealing the radar system for the airplane, similar to the Masterpiece. I think the Masterpiece is better detailed though. And the cockpit, I promise you, does open. There we go. Revealing a little cockpit with no detail again, but hey, it's cool that it's there, I guess. Next time you see this guy, actually, I probably am going to have a blue cockpit cover for both him and Fireflight, as there is a gentleman on TFW, I believe, Megatron31, who's been producing a whole bunch of blue accessories, including the cockpit and the eyes. So I am going to be picking both of those up. But yeah, he's pretty cool. Just for size comparison here, like I said, he was bigger than I expected. So I pulled out my Masterpiece Seeker, and you can just kind of see how they stack up together here. Not too big of a size difference, and we'll put in our Classics one here, just for size comparison. And we'll pull out our Fireflight, just so he can be with his fellow Limbot, and you can just see how they stack up here. Pretty nice size. I really like the size of these jets. And finally, for nostalgia's sake, here is our Generation 1 Airraid. And I'm sure if you really want these type of labels, repro labels will probably hook you up. I really like how he looks flat, right out of the box. I don't know why I couldn't say that. So, he does have these missile accessories. Let's pull him off this stand here so I can talk about him a little. To get him off the stand, what you need to do is actually rotate these knee pad pieces out. I always find it easier also to separate the legs a little, and then just kind of plug them back in together. And he does have landing gears. You flip out his knee pads here, and of course the one in the front. Let's talk about his missiles. You can see there is 3 sets of ports, well, 2 sets of ports, and unfortunately his visible hands. You can plug these into the hands if you prefer, but I feel like that hangs down way too far on the jet, so I always put it on the wings. And you can't plug it into these wings just because, or these ports, because his hands are in the way. I do wish this was a little better, and it's definitely a point that you can kind of argue, but I feel in most modes of the airplane you're really not seeing, or most ways you can display the airplane, you're not going to see his hands too much. So that's not too big of a deal to me. One thing someone pointed out is that you can actually take your Seeker, Masterpiece Seeker missiles if you prefer, and plug them on in, and that does look pretty good like that. Again, just standard 5mm socket. Now, what's strange about these, so here's his missiles here, and they have this swivel, and you can swivel them on in, but then there's nothing you can do with them. I guess maybe for play value, because you can swivel the peg in and there it is, real missile or whatever, but I don't really understand why they have that feature in here. I don't see any way that it looks like it's going to combine with something else. It's just kind of a pain to get out, so I just leave them out. These fins are very, very sharp, quite capable of cutting, and also easy to break, I would imagine, if you're not careful. I really don't see what you'd be doing with these that you'd risk breaking them, but it's worth, you know, paying attention to just in case. So let's get this guy transformed to his robot mode, or at least try, because there's a couple things that I hope I don't have to cut away for, but they're pretty difficult to do. So the first thing we're going to do is, I like to pull off the wings. You don't have to really, and in fact let's leave them on. We'll just kind of rotate or pull them out a little here just to give a little bit of clearance to get these tabs out of the way. And then what we'll do is we'll start by taking his arms and folding them all the way out like this. You see his shoulder pads pop out here, and then you're just going to basically fold this all down together here like that, and now bring his fist down. Next, what we're going to do is extend his legs back here. Now there's this little panel here, we'll get to that after. Yeah, so we'll fold in these tail fins and flip them on up like they should be. Now here's the part that I have a lot of trouble with. You've got to get these thrusters back and up, but unfortunately for me, I find it really hard. Oh, that time wasn't so bad. It's really hard sometimes to get these panels open. I think this time wasn't so bad because I made it a point not to close them all the way. But you flip them up and then you rotate the thrusters back to make kind of his heel spur there. Let's see if the other side wants to cooperate. See, there's just no real good place to get anything in on them when they're closed all the way, like this. And you can't even really use the thruster to help push them up. I've tried that and it doesn't work. There we go, finally. So flip this on up and in like that. Now come around to the front here and just flip this toe down and spin it around, and you can kind of do what you want. If you want to bring it in so it kind of looks flush like that, you can. You can leave it out a little more. I usually put it all the way in and then kind of adjust it so it's making a flat line, and it's easiest to do that when you obviously have him on the surface you're going to stand him on. So let's do that to the other side here. Flip it, bring it all the way in, and make sure he's standing appropriately. Now the back wings, what they tell you to do is to flip them on up, and well, before we go on to our complete robot mode, let's keep them like this. for a minute, because TFC has already mentioned that we're probably going to get repaints of this as a certain Seeker group. And you can kind of see where they're going with that here. Yeah, it's not a bad set of Seekers. The question is, if they cost the same as Airraid cost, do I really want to invest that much in Seekers? Or do I think Hasbro is going to make some? And truthfully, I think Hasbro is probably going to make new Seekers, because whenever they make them, they sell. So let's get these wings in the actual proper position. You fold them on in, and then you fold them back, like so. And that's what the instructions actually tell you to do, is to fold them in like that. And then technically you're done. But remember that little back flap? I like to open it up like this because it actually does a great job holding his cockpit piece in place wherever you want it. So you kind of open it up and set that how you want, and then it's not wobbling around so much. And I think that looks better. So that's the official way that this is supposed to transform. And as you can see going on, oh, I'm sorry, this is the official way. We forgot to take the Starscream pieces off. Yeah, just fold them on back like that. That is official. My apologies. You can still see how we have the wrist peg holes here. Man, these things that fold in are a pain. So if we had some null rays perhaps, other than that we can put these in his hands. And that is the proper way that we transform this guy. Articulation's pretty good. We do have a little bit of a limit because of the wings, but you can rotate them out of the way to get a full 360. Obviously just a swivel here, but you know, in combination with the rotation, that's fine. A good elbow joint, no wrist articulation. We do have a waist, which if you don't have that black flap out of the way, is completely blocked. So you do have a little bit of waist movement here. Head, also very good on a ball joint. And he has this weird smile going on. And it actually looks pretty bad in my opinion, out of the box. It's just silver, so I took a little bit of black paint just to fill it in, because I think any smiling face looks a whole bunch less creepy on a Transformer if the mouth is actually blacked out. Down to the legs here for articulation. Whoops, popped off one of my wings here. I probably should have pushed these back in after I did the transformation. You got a side-to-side rotation here. It's the ratchet. You got a knee, you got a swivel. Your movement's a little bit hindered by what's on his back, but it's not horrible. Now, like I said, this is the official way to transform him. But let's bring out his Generation 1 counterpart so we can see what the proper transformation looks like. So when you see here, and in the animation models, I'm going to put in a cell of that right here. You can see he's got these little wings sticking out here. And this one has no wings. So technically, if you really want to be correct, it's going to be a little bit big. But what you really should be doing is taking these wings and leaving them flipped out like this for G1 authenticity, like so. But that is going to limit your posability a little bit more. But yeah, he does have that G1 authentic look if you just leave the legs out. You got that back of the plane here. I kind of like him with his authentic G1 look, to be completely honest. He may stay on my shelf like that because frankly, knee posability on my display shelf doesn't really bother me. But we'll put him back just for the sake of the review here. And you can take these and you can rotate them either way, whichever one you like. If you wanted to, you could leave the side with the peg hole out, so you could kind of store his missiles on his back if you really wanted to. So for size comparison purposes, you already saw him next to the Seeker in G1, but here he is next to his Limb buddy. You can see very nice size together, and yeah, they look good. I really can't wait till they get the blue eyes for them though, because I think they're gonna look even better with the blue eyes and the blue cockpit. Since we already have him out, here he is next to Lugnut here. You can see Lugnut is a little bit bigger. And I know Silverbolt is a point of contention among people because he is a light SR-71 and some people don't like his proportions. Rest assured, the Hasbro one from a number of years ago actually looks really good with these guys still. Yeah, I think in robot mode I too may be displaying him with this one. In fact, I really kind of want a Henkei one because he's more in a uniform color scheme with these guys. So maybe that'll be a future purchase. This is not a bad toy if you don't have it. Let's just take a real quick close-up look at his face here. We'll just zoom in like that. Really nice light piping, as always on all these toys. The last thing I kind of want to point out here is he also has the chest missiles, like so. Unfortunately, you do see those big screws there, but what can you do? So I guess the last thing that we should do with this guy is to get him into his leg mode. And what you're going to do for that is pretty much keep him like this. We'll fold in his feet here. Fold his feet in. And then we're going to take our foot here. And I've seen some people do some neat things with this foot. Some people have actually kind of used it as a riot shield, like this, on his arm. And that's kind of cool if you want to use your imagination to do that. But anyway, take this, take the little piece off here, and we'll plug this in right down here at the bottom of his feet here. And just kind of fold all this, or clip all this in together again. And I forgot his skirt armor here is articulated to help with his range of motion. We'll then take this, we'll put this together. We can leave everything else back like this. In fact, I think I just leave it like that. I always have a hard time remembering if I'm supposed to flip them back or not. Well, we're gonna have to move them anyway because I forgot we still have to do his arms. So you're gonna fold his arms back in to their jet mode form. So let's take these off just for now, just so they get out of the way. There we go. Fold them on in at the shoulder pad. And mine do have a small issue with clipping in here. You can see my elbow joint doesn't make a perfect joint. So when I go to plug it in, that's plugged in and it pops back out. Usually it's fixed. If you take this and you give it an extra push in, it'll hold itself in, but it's still not quite right. But that at least holds it in place. And it just popped out again after I moved it. So bring that in, bring this up, like so. Squeeze that all together, make sure it's in tight. And you can see, again right there, little gap. That's definitely creating the problem here on this side. So we have that, like so. And I have trouble remembering where these tail fins go. Because frankly, I haven't really had him in his foot mode very much. Because I don't want to put him on my Hercules. So plug these back in so they're facing out like this. So you got that going on. Zoom out here. And then you take this front chest piece, which does open up for some pretty intricate detailing inside. and you flip this down, and you flip this closed as best as you can. It won't close all the way. It has a little bit of an opening there. And then you plug this in. And there you go. Now he is afoot. You're also supposed to take these missiles and plug them in here to better hide his hands. And I gotta say, this guy is a pretty darn beefy leg. I don't think it's the case that he's bigger than any of the Hercules Limbots, but he sure feels like it. Oh, this also has to come down because without it, you're actually gonna lose some of the posability on the Superion bot, just because any knee tilt there. But there you go. There he is in his foot mode. So this is T2RX6. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. I can't wait till we get Silverbolt, hopefully sooner as opposed to later. And he'll obviously be part 3 of the review. So I hope you enjoyed the review. I'll see you guys next week.